This weekend in Johannesburg, the third and final game for Argentina and the Springboks gets underway in Johannesburg. And in this video, I'm going to review the Springboks team and give you my thoughts on what a Kiwi thinks whether or not the Springboks team is good enough to beat the Argentinian Pumas. Hola and welcome to Cancun in Mexico. Welcome to Inside Rugby. My name's Mark and it's good to have you all here. I'm going to be covering the final round this weekend of the Rugby Championship, and we've also got some warm-up games starting to happen as well, and I'm going to be covering those right here on Inside Rugby. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button and follow along the journey. Now in this video I'm going to be talking about the Springboks team that's been named to play Argentina in Johannesburg. It's going to be a fascinating game, that's for sure. Players make this team. Did you think that these players were going to be the starting 15? And do you think the bench was going to look like it actually is? So now the last time and the only time that the Argentinian Pumas have beaten the Springboks in South Africa was in another World Rugby Cup year, 2015. And it was also in Johannesburg. So maybe Michael Check is going to use that as an extra bit of motivation this week as the Pumas take on the Springboks. So when this team first came out for the Springboks to play against the Pumas this weekend, I must say I was really excited because I thought this team would have been a really good team to pick to play against the All Blacks. There's some players in there that have got good form, and it seems to be a really strong side for the Springboks. So why don't we have a look at the team, and I'll give you my Kiwi thoughts on what I think of this particular Springboks outfit that's going to take on the Pumas this weekend in Johannesburg. Now let's start off in the front row, and we've probably got the strongest front row that the Springboks can put together at the moment, I think. Christoph, Marx and Malherbe all playing really well, and I think this is their strongest tight three that they could have put on the field at the moment according to form. So really good tight three. Malcolm Marx is playing terrific, Christoph is playing really well, and I thought Malherbe had a great game against Australia. So there we go. I think that's a really good tight three for the Springboks. Then we go to the locks and we have Etzebeth and Ori, and I think this is a really good combination as well. I think Etzebeth is going to be better off having this run this weekend. Of course, the tragic loss of his father when he was in New Zealand, and he's back home now. He's had that extra time to grieve with his family. I think he's going to be a different player this weekend for the Springboks. Ori's playing really well, fits into that tight five very well, so I think that's a strong pick for the South Africans as well. So looking at the loose forwards, we have Marco van Staden in the 6 jersey, we have Pieter Steph de Toit in the 7 jersey, and we have Duane van Meulen in the 8 jersey. And as I said in my recent videos when I reviewed the game against Australia, I thought that Duane van Meulen had a fantastic game. He's back in the starting 15 this week, and I think these 3 loosies are going to do really well for the Springboks this weekend. I think they're going to be fast around the park. I think they're going to be quick to the breakdown. And Pieter Steph de Toit is really coming back into some good form at the moment. Of course, he scored a try this season already in the Rugby Championship. He's playing better each game, and I think that Jacques Nienaber is really looking at these 3 as a possible strong 3 going forward. Of course, we've got Khaleesi coming back in if he can overcome his injury. So there's some, I guess, some combinations that Nienaber is looking at the moment to fill that spot if Khaleesi doesn't get back on the park, which I'm sure all South Africans and everybody in the rugby community globally is hoping actually happens, because he adds so much to this Springboks team from a leadership point of view, and maybe that's something that they've been missing in recent games as well. So a really good back 3 for the Springboks. I think they're going to clean out the Argentinian back 3. I think they're going to be too fast at the breakdown. And not only are they fast at the breakdown area, but I think that these 3 particular players are going to be able to do some damage running close in to the inside backs of the Argentinians and causing some breaks to happen for the Springboks backline. So look out for that in this particular game. Then we move into the halves, and we've got Grant Williams starting at number 9, which I think is a great move, an opportunity for him to see how he goes under a bit of pressure in the starting 15. I don't know whether this is going to be a long-term thing for Ninaba. I think that they're looking at what Grant Williams can bring. I think he needs to take his game up a little bit more. We know what we get in Faf de Klerk, so I think it's a case of Williams being given an opportunity here to see how he takes on the starting role. Then we've got Manny Leblanc coming back in, and of course he played really well, I thought, against Australia and deserves the go at number 10. Of course, we've talked about, and I've talked about in recent videos, about the plethora of number 10s that South Africa has, and it's been really interesting reading a lot of comments from the South African audience of my channel talking about how that number 10 jersey is still a little bit of a concern over the selection, because I'm not too sure whether you're happy with the number 10 selections, and we'll talk about who's on the bench to cover that role in this particular game shortly in the video. But Manny Leblanc gets a chance to start at number 10. Let's see whether he can replicate the good game that he had against Australia and bring it to this game against Argentina. And then the centres, inside centre, we've got Damien Dealandi and we've got Jesse Creel at outside centre, and this is a really strong combination for me. I think these two are really, really good players, and they're going to ignite that back line for the Springboks. I don't think we've seen the best of Dealandi so far in the Rugby Championship. Jesse Creel's coming in to get his go, and I think these two players are going to be really staking their claim towards the Springbok jersey and World Cup squad, which is going to be announced probably in about 12 days time, I think it is. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how these two go. I'm sure that if Dealandi can pick up his game a little bit more from what we've seen so far, he can be an extreme danger in that midfield, and I expect him and Jesse Creel to give the Argentinians a hard time in the centres. And then on the wing this weekend, we've got Cheslin Colby, of course, taking that right wing position, and on the left wing, Kurt Lee Ardency. And Ardency, of course, has scored a handful of tries so far in the Rugby Championship. He's probably the most informed player in the Springboks team, yeah, subjectively, but he's played really, really well, and he's been given another go, I'm sure, because of his great form so far in the Rugby Championship. So Ardency and Cheslin Colby on the wings for the Springboks. And then a fullback, we've got Willie LaRue, of course, the standard marksman in that position. So I think this is a really strong Springbok backline. I think they can do a lot of damage, and I think with the great forwards that the Springboks are putting on the park this weekend, they're going to be winning a lot of ball, not only from set play, but also from breakdowns and clearing out. So I expect Springboks to be on top in a lot of the mauls, particularly early on in the game, and I think this is where the pattern is going to be formed for the Springboks. They're going to get early ball, and they're going to be very, very dangerous with that. So I expect them to start off with high intensity and play really, really well in the first half, and I'm sure that Ninaba is going to be asking that and demanding that of his team after what happened in Auckland 2 weeks ago. So then we look at the bench this weekend for the Springboks, and they've gone with a 5-3 combination, which I think is also very interesting, but I think the logic there is to give their centres a little bit of an opportunity. So Lucano Arm comes in as one of the back replacements in this team, along with Faf de Klerk, and the other one is Damien Willemse. So we're going to see a rotation at number 10, we're going to see a rotation at number 9, and we're also going to see Lucano Arm come on as well. So that's going to be a really interesting switch, and I'm sure that Ninaba is looking for a very strong bench combination coming on and being able to score more points for the Springboks in the second half. Then the forwards coming off the bench this weekend for the Springboks is Monganambi, Trevor Nyakani, which is good to see him back, Vincent Coe, RG Snyman and Quagga Smith. So a really good 5 coming off the bench for the Springboks, and I'm sure they're going to be adding a lot of value when they come on, whether it be late in the first half or throughout the second half. So I really like the look of the Springboks team. I think it's a team that's going to win a lot of ball, and I think it's a team that's going to be able to play the game at a bit of pace. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of open play from the Springboks this weekend against the Argentinian Pumas. But I also think there's a lot of potential there from the kicking game as well. So we'll see how Leblanc manages that. I thought he had a great game against Australia when it came to his kicking. His strategic kicking was very good. And of course we've got Faf de Klerk on the bench that the Springboks can bring on for strategic kicking in the second half. So a really well balanced side, Let me know what your thoughts are around this side. Are you a little bit upset that anybody's missed out? Esterhuizen, I'm sure, is somebody that's on a lot of people's minds in terms of should have got a run this weekend, but I'm sure we're going to see him back next week against Argentina in Argentina, and it's going to be another opportunity for Ninaba to, I guess, rotate some of these combinations and just see how they play. And in this team, I'm seeing a team that's got a lot of combinations working already, players that are in form, and I think that's going to be important going up against the Argentinian Pumas. Now, the Pumas are coming off that dramatic win against Australia 2 weeks ago in Sydney, and one of the things that we've been missing from the Argentinian Pumas over the last couple of years, I think, is consistency in backing up their matches. We saw it last year against the All Blacks. They had that fantastic win against the All Blacks in Christchurch, and then a week later they got absolutely trounced in Hamilton. So I'm sure that this is something that Cheika's working on. This is, I think, what's going to stop Argentina at this stage from making it into that really higher echelon of world rugby, is their consistent play against the top teams in the world and being able to back up week after week. So I'll talk more about that when I go through the Argentinian review of their team for this weekend, so watch out for that in my next video. So there we go, that's my thoughts around the Springboks team to play against Argentina this weekend in Johannesburg. Another important match in the build-up to the Rugby World Cup. Really interested to know your views on this one. Has Ninaba and his selectors got this one right for this weekend, do you think? Do you think it's a good combination coming off the bench as well? And who would have you put into this team to give them a run in this vital lead-up game to the Rugby World Cup? Let me know all your comments. And don't forget, if you want to follow through on all the rugby that's happening this year, warm-up games to the Rugby World Cup, as well as all the Rugby World Cup here on Inside Rugby, all you've got to do is hit that little subscribe button. Okay, that's it for this video. I'm going to be back soon with another one looking at this weekend's games coming up in the third and final round of the Rugby Championship. Until then, stay safe, stay well everybody, and enjoy your rugby. Bye for now.